is your expectations. And in early childhood, expectations mean a couple things. First, do you have appropriate expectations for the age level? Are you expecting too much or too little from this group of kids based on their developmental stage? That's the first step. Know what's reasonable to expect, like during circle time for kids this age, or whatever the activity is. The other thing is, sometimes we expect things that will never happen. We expect that circle time is going badly, but then one day the kids will all say, we've been giving Miss Pam a hard time in circle, and we want to change our ways, and now it's going to go better. That's never going to happen. What we can expect tomorrow is what happened today, because they do the same thing every day for the most part. They're pretty much the same. So unless we do something differently with that circle time, it will be that lousy circle time. They are not going to change. And actually, kids are pretty quick at forming bad habits. They're like, okay, we sing the pledge, then we do a good morning song, and then the teacher starts talking, and I start poking people. There's my cue, and here I go. It's like, so we form bad habits very quickly. We have to change it up to break those bad habits. I call this the inconvenient truth. This is a list of things, of ideas I've gathered from great teachers over the years, from being a classroom observer. We could also call this, tales from the road, because these are things that I've learned from wonderful teachers that I think if we all just paid attention to these statements, our whole group activities would be so much better. The first one, but some of them are hard to hear. We don't like hearing some of these, because initially it feels like it makes our job harder, even though in the end it's going to make us happier. Avoid the large group whenever possible. And you'll hear me bring up circle time a lot, because as the pre-K inclusion coordinator, I had to deal with the behaviors for the state of Georgia in pre-K. And there were pages and pages of documentation on circle time about how much our kids seem to hate circle time. So let's keep this in mind as we're talking about these things. We have got to end our preschool love affair with the circle. Identify why you're bringing a whole group of kids together, get it done, and move on. Sometimes I think we feel like when we bring the whole group together, that's when we're really the teacher. We're giving them some kind of information. We know the real learning of preschool and early childhood happens through play. We all know this, not from sitting and listening to the teacher. So keep that in mind. And it's not just about circle time, though. If we're talking about transition time, going to meals, bathroom, anytime you can break up the group, it's going to go better. Groups of small children clumped together is a disaster waiting to happen for the most part, unless they are super engaged. That's when biting happens. That's when hitting happens. That's when all kinds of terrible things happen. And even like if you have a very young age group, if you're in a toddler classroom, we tend to see toddler classrooms where the kids are playing and the teachers are kind of sitting with them, which is a good thing, but kind of just sitting on the edges and all the kids are kind of playing. You want to make sure that you have things going on all over your classroom that makes kids divide. You do not want them clumped together. That's why we see so much biting and aggression in toddler classes. So if you have a beanbag tossing activity in one corner of the room, where the kids are throwing beanbags into baskets, then way on the other side of the room you have a paper tearing activity, which is also interesting and a good fine motor skill. Both of those hold a lot of interest. If you can plan things all over your classrooms that get kids to divide up, behaviors will improve. What happens sometimes, though, is we'll have the beanbag toss over here, and in this corner we have a classical music section. Nobody's going there. We have to make it interesting. Lots of interesting things that make kids want to divide, not one super attractive thing. So we want to divide our kids up whenever possible. Waiting leads to misbehavior 100% of the time. When we make our kids wait, they will misbehave. The problem is, nobody waits really in life. Y'all don't wait. If I said, okay, everybody sit here and do nothing, you wouldn't do it. You get on your phone, you get up, you get down. Nobody does nothing, ever. So when we ask them to wait while we get materials, while we figure out what we're doing next, while it's not their turn, they will misbehave.